Unfiltered. Ricky Bo, Bill Colarulo.
Philadelphia Sports Talk.
97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Welcome into Unfiltered on this What Movie Wednesday. And last night after we got off the air, we got some breaking news. Not shocking news, but breaking news that the 76ers moved on from the president of basketball operations, Daryl Morey. He was hired in November of 2020 in hopes that he would eventually be able to get this team out of the second round. And unfortunately, Ricky Bo, the last 6 years, a lot more of the same disappointment after disappointment.
Didn't happen. Somebody has to pay. Isn't that where we are right now within the Sixers organization? You knew after this season ended the way it ended that something was going to happen, whether it be a head coach, whether it be the Pobo, whether it be anybody. There's going to be changes to this team now. There has to be changes to this team. And I believe this is just the start. You may not think that, and we've had this conversation before, but I think this is just the beginning. This isn't something that you do if you're not going to make wholesale changes, and I think there's going to be wholesale changes coming as we move forward this offseason.
Yeah, so here's the statement that was released by Josh Harris and the Sixers in large part to our fans, quote, "Your frustration and disappointment are understandable and warranted. We have fallen well short of our own expectations and failed to deliver in the way this city deserves. That bothers me deeply, and I have confidence in Bob Myers to establish a path forward for our franchise," close quote. Now, Josh Harris and Bob Myers are scheduled to meet with the media tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We are going to carry that for you live on tomorrow's show. But until we actually hear from Bob Myers and Josh Harris, we're kind of left now to speculate, well, what does this mean going forward? So Bob Myers takes it over. If you're not familiar with Bob Myers, he won 4 NBA championships with the Golden State Warriors. Depending on who you talk to, some will say Bob Myers is worthy of all the praise he gets, and others will say, he kind of stepped into a good situation for a team that already had Steph Curry on it, which is true. But he also made some really good strategic moves. He was able to get Kevin Durant there. He brought in Andre Iguodala. He didn't trade Klay Thompson when he had an opportunity to. He extended him. He kept Steve Kerr there. So he did a lot of good things in resulting in those 4 NBA titles. But Bob Myers isn't necessarily taken over. He's just going to run the search, Ricky, to find Daryl Morey's replacement.
Yep.
So as you sit here right now, let's just look at the Daryl Morey firing. And I think this is kind of a no-brainer answer. Did you agree with it? Did Daryl Morey deserve to be fired?
I truly believe yes. I stated it yesterday that I thought it was definitely going to happen. There was just too much inconsistency with this team. Did they ever get over? It's been 6 years. Did they get over a hump? Did they ever get by that barrier that he was brought in to get by? The answer to that is absolutely not. I mean, there's been so many different problems. You look at the team this year, they didn't have a bench that could get them over the top. Joel Embiid with the injuries, that has nothing to do with Morey, but I mean, you should have seen this coming. And I think that the dagger may have been Jared McCain. That, in my opinion, was a bad move, bad timing, and a bad look to it for the Sixers. You put all that together, and I just can't see how they could have kept going in this direction. I think they needed some new leadership. I think they need to start going in a different direction. Things the way they are, they're not working. They're not getting you past that second round. Hasn't even come close. Well, I guess if you want to call the Celtics going to Game 7 a couple of years back close, okay, that's fine. But, I mean, you're talking about a guy named Joel Embiid who was supposed to be the next coming that just did not help. It just didn't happen, and I expect a lot of changes to start occurring for the Sixers right now.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this.
How much do you think the James Harden thing played in? Remember the James Harden thing where he made the remarks about Morey?
Yeah, I actually thought the trade of James Harden might have been one of his better moves, considering that James Harden didn't want to play here. And you were able to get a 2028 first-round pick that's unprotected back, even though Harden said he didn't want to be here and didn't want to play under Daryl Morey. I mean, I guess it's all factored in, but getting rid of James Harden when you did might have been one of Daryl Morey's better moves here when he did that back in October of 23. But I was thinking about this last night when the move got announced that they fired Daryl Morey, and you see the quote from Josh Harris saying that we haven't lived up to expectations. And I started to think about, like, dating back to 2001, the last 25 years of Sixers basketball, the only time that this team has lived up to expectations were the seasons where we had no expectations. Every other season, if you had any expectation whatsoever that this team was going to do something, you left the season greatly disappointed. But when you didn't have expectations, they lived up to it when they were tanking and you knew they were going to lose. When you had no expectations, they lived up to those limited expectations. But anytime you thought they were going to do something, they disappointed the hell out of you. And here you are, 25 years later.
I almost have to chuckle at what you just said. Living up to expectations of losing.
That was the only time this team delivered.
I know, but isn't that strange? Isn't that strange to come in and the one thing that you have under your belt is that we lived up to the expectations during the losing era? That doesn't do anything for me. As a matter of fact, makes me disgusted with where they still stand. I mean, not to get by a second round series in 25 years, Bill. 25 stinking years. I mean, you could look at it and you probably could say in the long run that it's not necessarily Morey's fault and it's the players that didn't get it done. Yeah, there is that understanding, but somebody has to take the blame. Somebody's the one bringing in players, like PJ Tucker, Montrezl Harrell. I mean, do I have to keep going?
Well, let's look at Daryl Morey now. All right, so he comes here in November of 2020. Let's look at some of his best moves and some of his worst moves that really did him in. So he gets here, November 2nd is when he was hired. Started out pretty strong. They draft Tyrese Maxey November 18th. Now, whether or not you give him credit for that or not, that is debatable, but they did draft Tyrese Maxey when he was the president of basketball operations. He also inherited a terrible Al Horford contract. 1 year in is when Daryl Morey inherits that 4-year contract. He was able to get out from under that contract. They traded 3 years and $109 million worth of salary to get out from Al Horford. Couple years later, February of 2022, Ben Simmons, the disaster that Ben Simmons became. He was able to flip that and get James Harden here. And Harden comes in, and there was a chance this team, you thought maybe they could beat Boston. When you had Harden and Embiid, you thought maybe there was a good chance this team was going to do something.
They had a shot. They went to Game 7. They had Game 6 at home to clinch a series. They lost that one, and they didn't show up for Game 7.
All right, so still not terrible moves by Daryl Morey. And then James Harden says he doesn't want to play here anymore. And that actually wasn't a bad move by Morey. You're able to trade James Harden, and you got back an unprotected first-round pick. You got a pick swap out of the deal. So, like, those moves right there, just taken in a vacuum, you're like, okay, not a terrible job by Daryl Morey. But then you look at some of the other moves that were made, and before you even get to Jared McCain, you just look at what they've done in terms of how they've built depth on this team. Constantly signing old, over 30 free agents. Dwight Howard, PJ Tucker, Pat Bev, Paul George, Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson, Andre Drummond, just to name a few. It was constantly going old, and you saw what happened when you signed a bunch of old players last year where the team was an absolute disaster, and then you saw what happened this year when you just didn't have any bench. So I feel like that is a huge mistake in the Daryl Morey tenure, for sure. But ultimately for me, you mentioned is the Jared McCain one kind of the nail in the coffin. I think it just has to be the two monster contracts that he gave to Joel and Paul George. Like that, those are the moves where when you look at it, and I think I heard Amy Fadul say this morning on Sportsnet Central, the Sixers are the only team right now in the NBA that right now have 3 players scheduled to make over $40 million next season. 3. Now, one of them's Tyrese Maxey. You could live with that. But the other one, Paul George, Daryl Morey gave him 4 years, over $200 million, when the LA Clippers probably weren't going to give him more than 2. If there was no other team that was willing to give him 2 or 3 years, why did you have to give him 4? And then he doubles down. He gives Paul George 4 years. And then a couple months later, even though Joel had 2 years remaining on his deal, says, you know what? I got another brilliant idea. I'm going to add 3 years to Joel Embiid's 2 years. So now we got Paul George for 4. We got Joel for 5. And now here you are, and you're sitting here. And even though they fired Daryl Morey, can you get out from these mistakes? Can you get out from these monster contracts that are just weighing you down, man?
And let's face it, that's the question we want answered. That's the question people want to hear. You're sitting here with 3 basically max contracts, which Maxey's going to be a super max at some point. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You already have $180 million on the books for next year. How are you going to fix this? How are you going to get to a point where you could actually maybe even build a bench with these guys? You can't build a bench right now. You don't have 5 starters right now at $180 million. Do you see what I'm saying? There are serious issues here, and a lot of them are money issues. We talked a lot yesterday about having to make some trades to dump some money, to dump some salary. I think my biggest thing is, okay, if you could trade Embiid, get bench players. Get 3 bench players that could play.
Even if you have to throw a first-round pick, you feel better if you get some depth back.
I definitely would. At least you would have the depth, and then you would have Maxey, you would have Edgecombe, and Paul George.
Well, look, tomorrow leading into the press conference, I want to talk a lot about what we're hoping to hear from Bob Myers and Josh Harris. But one of them, I don't know if they'll come out and say it, is everything's on the table. Like, I don't want them to come out and sell us on the idea of we're still going to build around Joel, Paul George, and Tyrese.
You don't want to hear we got a pretty good club?
Yeah, we got a pretty good club. But if they start dropping Dave Dombrowski on us, I'm going to lose my mind. But as you sit here right now, let's just look at Daryl Morey. Was he a snake oil salesman? Like, he comes in here, and the reason people were excited when they hired him in 2020 was because of what he did with the Houston Rockets, right? But when you really take a step back and you think about what Daryl Morey did with the Houston Rockets, he gets James Harden there. They end up going to 2 Western Conference Finals. They never won a Western Conference Finals. They never appeared in an NBA Finals. They never won an NBA championship. So in essence, he was kind of a one-trick pony. He got James Harden there, which was a good move at the time, and they won a lot of games, and they disappointed in the postseason.
That's
what else has he done?
But that's pretty much the definition of the Sixers since 2001.
And that's the guy we said we want him to get us over the hump.
Well, it didn't work. I mean, bottom line is if you're Josh Harris, you're looking at this and saying to yourself, this isn't working. This is not working. This hasn't worked in a long, long time. How do we fix this? How do we try to fix it? I don't even know if he's looking to completely fix it. But, I mean, at least put the effort in right now to try to do something. And let's face it, whoever the new Pobo is or GM, whatever you want to call them, because what they are really GMs. They just got a fancy title nowadays. What is he going to do to help this team next year? Not just 7 years down the road, because I know Sixers fans don't want to hear that.
Oh, man.
Last thing they want to hear is something like that. You want to know right now, what are you going to do to fix this team today so it's better next year?
And that's what's going to be Bob Myers' job, to find that president of basketball operations. But people are asking, because you just mentioned the Pobo is in essence the GM. Well, Elton Brand, I guess, still has his job, right? I mean, we haven't heard anything about Elton Brand.
We haven't heard anything yet. I don't know if that's going to have something to do with the incoming or not.
And the same thing with Nick Nurse. The reports early are Nick Nurse's job is safe right now. Now, we talked about this yesterday. If Daryl Morey was to get fired, does that automatically mean Nick Nurse is fired? And we both kind of said not necessarily.
But then you hear the caveat that it's possibly upwards of $14-15 million that you'd be eating.
You just hit the nail on the head.
You might as well take your shot with what you have next year.
Yeah, because if you're Josh Harris, the businessman that Josh Harris is, it's like, all right, I'm already paying Daryl Morey because he had a couple years left, right?
You're right.
All right, if I fire Nick Nurse, I'd have to pay him for a couple more years. Then I'm going to hire another Pobo. I'm going to have to pay him, and I'm going to have to hire a new coach and pay them. Josh Harris is like, nah, you know what? One change is enough. Let's just move on from Daryl Morey.
Well, it is one change right now, but There has to be changes that are made. You cannot run this team back. Let's face it. When they do get the new guy in here, what's the first questions that are going to be asked?
What are you doing with Joel?
Yep.
What are you doing with Paul George?
What are you doing with Maxey?
And Maxey's another one now, because you brought this up yesterday. We were talking about, is Maxey untouchable or not? And this morning, I'm flipping through ESPN, and I see Stephen A. Smith going on one of his rants saying that not that the Sixers should trade Tyrese, but that Maxey should ask to be traded. That Maxey should demand a trade. So now we're going to start that whole narrative that Maxey should be asking out? Like, this thing has the potential, not that it hasn't already been a disaster, but depending on who you hire, man, they got some really tough decisions to make, or this thing can really go off the tracks here. But here's what I want to hear from Sixers fans today. Daryl Morey was fired. It did seem inevitable, but now it's official. Daryl Morey was fired. Are you feeling more optimistic about the future of the 76ers? Does just simply moving on from Daryl Morey make you feel better? I would love to hear from Sixers fans and explain why or why not. 3 ways to get involved in the show. You could send your texts and your voice memos to the Davis Honda text line, or you could pick up the phone and call. I do want to talk to some Sixers fans today. Do you feel better now that Daryl Morey was fired? 610-632-0975. It's the same number across the board. Phone calls, texts, voice memos. Do you feel better? Now, we don't know who's going to take over for Daryl Morey. We don't even have rumors about who's going to take over for Daryl Morey. All we know at this point is that Bob Myers is going to run the search. I do like that. At least there's a basketball guy in there, Ricky, a guy who he was an agent at one point. We know what he did with the Golden State Warriors. He won 4 NBA titles. I like that he is conducting this search, and it's not just, hey, Josh Harris, the businessman, is conducting
he's got an idea of how to win.
Definitely does.
That's the only thing I care about. At this given time, a guy who knows how to win is going to look for the next chapter. That's what you need. It is what it is right now. But here's why I'm annoyed. We all knew. We thought this was going to happen. We weren't surprised when we found out last night at all. Nobody was surprised. But to come in today and me sit here and say that there's nothing that's all that's wrong with the Sixers would be insane. And I'm not that. And I am frustrated with this team. Obviously, you and I have been doing these jobs for a while, and to come in every year after they lose in the second round, it's just annoying as can be. They have to get better at some point.
Yeah, they do have to get better. And now we sit here today. How are you feeling about the future of this team? Do you feel more optimistic? I want to answer that question coming up next. And if Bob Myers is the guy that's conducting this search, well, if you are in the trade Joel Embiid camp, which I am, which I think Ricky would be willing to sign up for too, right? If they could trade Joel Embiid.
If I could save Maxey, yes.
Well, then you're going to want to hope that Bob Myers has changed his mind, because I believe it was either our morning show or Ray Dunn. They went and they found a clip of Bob Myers 2 years ago when he was an analyst for ESPN talking about Joel Embiid. I'll play that for you coming up, because if he still feels this way, it's going to be a long 3 years with Joel still on the 76ers. We'll get to that coming up next. I'll also tell you what the What Movie Wednesday theme and prizes are today. We got an action-packed show for you. 3 p.m., Noah Levick joining us to talk Sixers. Covers them for NBC Sports Philadelphia. 4 p.m., Jason Stark of The Athletic joining us to talk Phillies. And 5 o'clock in studio, Super Bowl champion Rodney McLeod will be with us at 5 o'clock to talk about the Birds. So do not go anywhere. But coming up next, what did Bob Myers say about Joel? Unfiltered, 97.5 The Fanatic, NBC Sports Philadelphia.
Unfiltered. Ricky Bo, Bill Colarulo.
Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Unfiltered. Ricky Bo, Bill Colarulo.
97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
It's What Movie Wednesday on Unfiltered today. We'll talk about that in a second. I'll tell you the theme and the prizes. But we're reacting to the Sixers firing their president of basketball operations, Daryl Morey, last night. Bob Myers, who was the architect of the Golden State Warriors' 4 championships, is not taken over as the POBO, but he will run the search to hire the next POBO. Both Sixers owner Josh Harris and Bob Myers are scheduled to meet with the media tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So as we sit here today, the question we're throwing out to everybody is, all right, simply firing Daryl Morey, does that make you feel more optimistic about the future of the Sixers? And, Ricky, I would love to come in here and say, oh, man, I feel great now about the future. Daryl Morey's out. This means everything's going to turn around. But unfortunately, the damage was already done. Daryl Morey's leaving you with monstrosities of contracts for Paul George and Joel Embiid, where I don't care who the next POBO is. Are they going to be able to get out from under these and not set the franchise back a couple years? And I don't think the answer is yes.
The answer's not there. I mean, when you look at the team and how much money is already spent and the players that are already on this team and the max contracts you have on this team, I don't think this is an easy fix. I don't think it's an easy fix. I asked you yesterday for this specific reason. I said, do you think this team as constructed right now can win a title? Because are we really even talking about winning in the playoffs? We know they could win a series here and there in the playoffs. That's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is winning a chip, getting to the championship, maybe even just winning the Eastern Conference. Can this team possibly do it as built? And you told me no. Nope. Where does that leave you then? That leaves you where major changes have got to happen. Is there going to be pains within that? And what do I mean by that? The process is what I mean by that. Is this team slipping back into that type of situation? Or do you try to mold something together with a trade? I mean, there's so many different aspects of what has to happen here to make this team better right now. It's scary.
And I think step one, and we've been talking about this all week long so far, is trying to trade Joel Embiid. Now, if Bob Myers is the guy who's running the search for the next president, I would have to believe that in those interviews, if Bob Myers and Josh Harris want to move on from Joel, one of the first questions for the prospective candidate is, what's your plan with Joel Embiid? But my fear is, what if Bob Myers and Josh Harris don't want to trade Joel Embiid? I think that would be a mistake. And this morning, I think it was the morning show who found this piece of audio when Bob Myers was an analyst for ESPN. This is now going back 2 years ago. Hopefully his opinion has changed. But listen to the way Bob Myers spoke about Joel Embiid on ESPN 2 years ago.
Sometimes I look at it simply as if it was a Game 7 of the NBA Finals right now, and we each got to pick a center. I'm taking Embiid first. As crazy as it is, I love Jokic. Wow. I love Jokic. But
so do I.
Embiid is the most physically dominant player in the NBA right now. He's the guy where the opponents look at each other and go, I don't know what to do with this guy. There's nothing I can do. Now, Jokic does it with physical skills and cerebral skills. But Embiid's one of the smartest players in the NBA, too. What he's doing is just dominant. Like, to the point where, I don't know, you cannot stop him. Nobody's been able to stop him. I'm excited for this game. I love seeing games like this. I think you're going to get a real game. This isn't going to be 150 to 162. This is not going to be that, and that's why I love it.
The question is, can Embiid raise his level to that?
Yes, he. Yeah.
You got to see it.
And God help the NBA if the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm not talking about Steph because that's only one. It's one of a kind. But if you got the caliber of a Klay Thompson, somebody that could just shoot, God help the NBA. If Embiid get somebody like that on his roster,
right,
you can book it.
Right.
There's nothing you can do with it.
All right, clearly that's Stephen A. at the end there. But Bob Myers at the beginning of that clip talking about how he would take Joel Embiid over Jokic in a Game 7, and then he lays out why. Now, granted, this was before some of the injuries.
Right.
Before the appendectomy, before all of that. But I have to hope that Bob Myers has changed his opinion and thinks, you know what? Joel Embiid is not the guy I want in a Game 7 because the chances are he's not going to be available.
Yeah, if he didn't change his mind, there's a problem right now, especially going into this. I think you have to have an open mind. If you're Bob Myers, you have to be going into this just completely open about what these new presidents of basketball operations are going to do, are going to want to do. But does he have that opinion still? So I want you to imagine this. You come into me and you're up for that job and you say, yeah, my first order of operation would be I'm going to look for a suitor for Joel Embiid. And Bob Myers says, there's my door.
Yep. Nope, that's not a starting point for me. Yeah, that's a big question that needs to be answered by them tomorrow. When Bob Myers and Josh Harris meet with the media tomorrow, is Joel Embiid untouchable?
You think that's going to become the question? It may be a question or the question that opens up that whole conference. Do you think it's going to get answered?
The way they should answer it is, we are conducting our search for the next president. Everything will be evaluated. Everything will be evaluated. I'm not saying they come out and say they're trying to trade Joel, but do not come out and start selling this fan base already on the idea of running it back.
You don't think it's good? We might as well do this, because as we know, A.J. Brown is still an Eagle. Is it not going to be that? As of right now, Joel Embiid is still a Sixer.
Yeah, I would be okay with that answer as of now.
But I don't think you're going to get an answer at all, because first and foremost, as you like to say to me, the players run it.
In the NBA, of course.
The NBA.
Yeah.
And you know what? If Joel Embiid hasn't had a say in it, then nothing's going on right now. And I look at it this way. If a new guy comes in and is going to stay status quo, that's not a new guy.
Well, and then that leads us to our big question today. Simply firing Morey, does it make you more optimistic about the Sixers? Now, before Ricky and I answer it, that's going to be the subject of our Twitter poll today. You could also weigh in, phone lines, text line. Davis on the text line, send your memos in for We Hear You coming up at 3:45, 610-632-0975. Does the firing of Daryl Morey make you feel more optimistic about the Sixers? Twitter poll standing strong thanks to Dr. Avidan Appel of Iron Mountain Men's Health. What do we got, Silvana?
Does firing Daryl Morey make you feel more optimistic about the Sixers' future? Yes or no? Kind of close. 54% are voting no to start, 46% for yes.
I'm voting no. Like, simply firing Daryl Morey does not undo everything that Daryl Morey has already done. So firing him doesn't eliminate the Paul George contract that you still have 2 years remaining on. It doesn't eliminate the Joel Embiid contract extension that still has 3 years. The craziest part of all this, Daryl Morey didn't even survive long enough to see the start of the 3-year Joel Embiid contract extension that he gave him 2 years ago. Think about how ridiculous that is.
That is awful. I didn't even think of that until you just said that.
He didn't even last long enough to see the start of the extension.
Well, get the heck out of Dodge is what that is.
It's hard to be optimistic about the future. It is.
How could you sit here and be optimistic when we've seen the future already? And it doesn't seem like anything's changing. If they come into this next season and the team looks the same, it's going to be the same old struggle down the road.
All right, well, let's go to the phones here. I want to hear from some Sixers fans. Remember, if you want your voice heard, you could send your voice memos in. You could send your texts as well, or pick up the phone and call. Let's go to Adam in Philly, who wants to talk about Daryl Morey. What's going on, Adam? How you feeling, man?
Hey, actually, I'm in Florida, but I'm from Philly originally. So here's the thing. So it's driving me crazy. Thank God he's gone, but Elton Brand needs to go. Look how many bad draft picks there's been over the last 20 years, let alone the last 10 years, you know? And then you get rid of Jimmy Butler to extend, Tobias Harris. Then you go ahead and get, Markelle Fultz. You missed out on Tatum. You missed out on Brown. You draft Miles Bridges, whose mom worked for the Sixers. He was so happy he had drafted. Didn't even realize he got traded at the time, for Zaire Smith, who never even played at all. So it's just like Elton Brand needs to go. The whole thing needs to be torn down. And look at the way the teams are run. Like the Flyers, obviously, they gave us a heck of a run. They lost, but they got a standing ovation, and everybody's cheering them on. Where with the Sixers, it's like you get nothing. They played with zero heart. They have no soul. It's just they got to start from the beginning. What they really should do is get rid of Nurse, in my opinion. Hire, I know he's not going to do it, but hire Jay Wright. Have Kyle Lowry as a bench coach, because him and Maxey seem to be, he seems to be mentoring him really well.
Yeah, listen, Jay Wright is a pipe dream. I'd love it too. I just don't think that he would come here.
Everybody loves to go to Jay Wright. I mean, nobody even knows if he even wants to coach anymore. In my honest opinion, I think he's pretty happy doing what he's doing.
Yeah, he's making some money. But even if you hire Jay Wright, right? Let's live out the pipe dream. Jay Wright comes here to coach this team. You still got an issue with personnel. You still have an issue with no bench.
Okay, let's go back to the Celtics series. Do you believe that Nick Nurse did a good job in the Celtics series?
Yes.
Did he outcoach Missoula?
I think he did.
I think he did too. So going into the following series, now you got an Embiid problem back and forth. That's a hard coaching job. That's almost an impossible coaching job to try to figure out when you're going to have a full roster of players.
Yeah, it's not easy.
And you have no bench on top of it?
Now, what I can get behind, though, as much as I like Elton Brand, he's a good guy, and I know he came here late in his career, and he was battling injuries and all that. He's been a terrible GM. He has. I mean, the Al Horford contract that I give Daryl Morey credit for getting out from under, that was Elton Brand who gave him that big contract. That was a disaster.
It's true.
Right? I mean, and I can't fault, like, the caller was talking about Mikal Bridges being drafted. A little bit, that was Brett Brown a little bit, too, who wanted to trade him, and that was unfortunate.
That's a bad move.
But if we're talking about Elton Brand, I do think you should move on, but you probably have to give Elton Brand credit for the Tyrese Maxey draft pick. Because Daryl Morey had just gotten here. He was here for about 2 weeks.
And it was probably already figured out as to who they were taking. If you remember, there were a bunch of questions about, remember Rutgers had all those players that year? Wasn't it Rutgers had 3 players that were in the draft? And they took the right one. They definitely took the right one. And, yeah, it probably wasn't Morey.
All right, so here's what we got going on today. We got Noah Levick joining us at 3 o'clock to talk Sixers. He's going to break down everything that the Sixers can maybe do with these monstrosity of contracts that they still have. He's joining us at 3 o'clock. But it is What Movie Wednesday. And if you missed it, we found out earlier today the Eagles will be playing the Jaguars in London. So we're doing movies set in London today for What Movie Wednesday. Now, candidly, I got to tell everybody, normally I pull the clips. I didn't pull them today. Dylan McKinnon did today. So I have no idea what these movies are.
They should be an absolute mess.
They could be movies none of us have ever heard of.
Probably.
Knowing Dylan McKinnon.
All I'm going to say is good luck.
But good luck, because if you win, we're giving away 4 $50 gift cards to Nifty 50s today. Craven Nifty 50s. Order online and get no fee delivery on the Nifty 50s app. Nifty 50s, taste the memories. They dropped off a bunch of burgers today, hot dogs, milkshakes, onion rings. It was delicious. Nuggets. It was delicious. So your first What Movie Wednesday coming up next. We will continue the Sixers conversation. I know a lot of people are hitting us up on the text line. Get your voice memos in. Do you feel more optimistic about the future of the Sixers? And your What Movie Wednesday coming up next. Unfiltered, 97.5 The Fanatic, NBC Sports, Philadelphia.
Unfiltered. Ricky Bo, Bill Colarulo.
Philadelphia Sports Talk. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
All right, and you think you're ready for backyard barbecues until reality hits and you're staring at a deck you don't trust, a chair nobody sits in, and a grill that hasn't seen a burger since who knows? Well, if your backyard is more don't go out there than let's hang out there, it's time for an upgrade with Sequoia Outback. You hear me talking about them a lot because for over 25 years, they've been helping the Delaware Valley turn mundane backyards into outdoor showstoppers. And with the largest outdoor showroom in the country, they've got everything you need to pull it off. You could check out decking and railing from Trex and Timber Tech. You can design the outdoor kitchen of your dreams with premium grills from Fire Magic, Weber, and Primo. And you can explore 3 massive floors of decking, pavers, furniture, umbrellas, and fire pits. And whether you're doing it yourself or you're calling in a pro, Sequoia has everything you or your contractor needs, and they can grab all the materials for your project right there. Save big right now during the Memorial Day sale that's going on. Sequoia Outback on Route 309 in Hatfield, or check them out online, decksupplies.com.
This is Unfiltered with Ricky Bo and Bill Colarulo on 97.5 The Fanatic and the Fanatic app.
Your people, your profits, and your payroll are your business's greatest priorities. For payroll you can trust, visit vcshr.com.
It's What Movie Wednesday. We got your first chance coming up this segment. We're giving away 4 $50 gift cards to Nifty 50s. And in honor of the Eagles playing the Jags in London again this year, we're doing movies based in London. All right, your first chance will be coming up. And remember, Rodney McLeod will be joining us in studio at 5 o'clock. He's played in London, I believe. He was hurt that year, actually, when they played in London. But we'll talk to him about a lot of things Eagles related. But we're on the Sixers right now. The big news last night, Daryl Morey has been fired. Josh Harris and Bob Myers will be meeting with the media tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We'll carry that for you live on the show. Bob Myers, if you remember, used to be with the Golden State Warriors. He won 4 NBA titles. It's kind of an interesting thing with Bob Myers, though. Some people give him all the credit in the world, and others will say he inherited Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and a lot of the good players on that team. But to win 4, you got to make some right decisions during that period. And he did. He brought in AI. He didn't trade Klay Thompson. He drafted Draymond Green, I believe, too, late. So he has the ability. Now, that's been the knock on him. He's not necessarily a good drafter.
Well, there's people here that could help him.
Well, and he's not even going to be the Pobo. He's doing the search, and I like that.
The search, why? Because he knows how to win? Is that what you're trying to say? Because he's got a winning pedigree, you're happy with it?
Well, let me ask you, would you feel better if Bob Myers was conducting the search or Josh Harris?
Myers.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I feel better.
A reason. I have a question for this. Because he's the president of the whole...
Yeah, it's like
cluster,
president of sports, right? Or whatever his title.
Yes, which means, doesn't that mean the Devils, the Commanders, and the Sixers?
Correct.
So he would do the search for all then, if it came down to it.
Yeah, because I think he was involved. Like his title is president of sports for Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment,
which is everything,
which is all their teams. So he's going to conduct the search. He'll be speaking tomorrow. But the question we're throwing out to everyone today, and you could weigh in, get your voice memos in. I want to have a good We Hear You segment coming up at 3:45. So send your voice memos, 610-632-0975. Do you feel more optimistic about the Sixers' future now that Daryl Morey was fired and Bob Myers is running the search? I don't feel that optimistic, though. Like, I'm excited that Daryl Morey's out and Bob Myers is going to find the next guy. But as you sit here today, you still have a really, really tough time of digging out of the hole that Daryl Morey has created. Because let me ask you this. Daryl Morey was hired November of 2020. Do you believe the Sixers are in a better position now or when Daryl Morey took things over in 2020? Better or worse position than they were 6 years ago?
Worse. I think right now you are literally under a gun right now. I mean, look at what you have. Look at all the money that's already spent. If you think about it, you come in here as a president of basketball operations, and you look at this and you say to yourself, "Oh, I could fix this, no problem." I don't see that being an easy answer. I don't see anything on this team right now being a real simple answer.
Is this even a coveted job?
That's what I was just thinking. When you asked me that question, like I started, the wheels started turning every once in a while. It had to get the rust off of them.
Don't tire yourself out over there. We got a long show.
But the whole situation is like, would I want this? What do I have to do here to make this team better? I got to get rid of certain talent to make a team better, which, number one, is whatever move you make is going to divide the fan base immediately. Immediately. Think about it. Let's just say you're going to move Embiid. You think the whole fan base is going to be in on that?
No, you're probably 50-50.
There's one guy that you can move that the fan base wouldn't say boo.
Paul George?
Paul George.
And what if they decide, hey, we're going to get a lot of assets back for Tyrese Maxey? What's that do to the fan base?
Woo!
Let's go.
I would say he's the number one guy on this team that people want to see.
Is Maxey.
Yes.
And VJ now, too.
Maxey is the number one guy on the team that people want to see.
You're probably right. But yesterday I was surprised when the idea came up of trading Maxey, how many people were actually on board with that. So if you got strong opinions about what they should do with Tyrese Maxey, send your voice memos in. But let's go to the Davis Honda text line. What are people saying? Are they feeling optimistic now that Morey's fired, or are they like me and Ricky saying you still got a big hole to dig out of?
Well, this texter says, I don't know if firing Morey immediately makes things better. Did he move Jared McCain on his own, or was he forced by Josh Harris to get under the luxury tax? There are missteps by Morey, of course, but I believe the actions that happened at the trade deadline to save money has been all ownership, not Morey.
That I agree with. I mean, I think Josh Harris wants to be under the luxury tax. And remember, going back to the season, right before the trade deadline, Joel Embiid came out and said, I hope that they add, we have a good team. I hope they don't try to get under the tax, something to that effect.
Yes.
And they did exactly the opposite of what Joel said to do.
That's exactly what they did. So, I mean, has anything changed in the last 12 hours? Does anything feel different with the Sixers in the last 12 hours? Nothing happens until newness comes in.
Yeah, you know what's funny, too?
And that might even take a month or two.
But I think it's funny that a lot of people are pointing to Daryl Morey's draft history and being like, well, he did some good things. He drafted Jared McCain. But you don't get credit for drafting McCain when you then turned around and traded him, and all you got back was a 22nd overall pick and a couple second rounders.
I would say that's like being kicked in the shins. I mean, come on. What are you talking about? You're basically saying, what a great draft. He picked up Jared McCain. Yeah? And where is he?
He's going to win a title, man.
And in all honesty, when you look at it, it's like, okay, you drafted Jared McCain. I think that's almost in my eyes, that's him admitting that it was a bad pick.
Yeah.
Why would you trade a number one that you drafted?
Well, and you used a 16th overall pick, and you got back a 22nd overall pick. So you actually did not sell high.
You lost the battle.
So, all right. He did get VJ, but VJ third overall. There were people who wanted Ace Bailey. I was kind of one of those on the fence, Ace Bailey or not. So you give him credit for drafting VJ. All right, but let's get another text in here. I really want to hear from Sixers fans. Like I said, get your voice memos in. How you feeling today now that Daryl Morey was fired? And as they do this search for the next president of basketball operations, like, what's the first thing you want them to do? Is it trade Joel Embiid? Is it trade Paul George? Is it, hey, let's get a ton of draft capital back for a Tyrese Maxey? Like, these are the types of questions that have to be asked in the interview process when they're looking for the next Pobo. But what do we got? Let's get another text in.
All right, Craig from Hershey. No, I don't feel good after firing Morey. The owner has done nothing to help the Sixers. Is he going to open his wallet? The only thing Josh Harris has done is sit back and watch while buying other franchises. Best thing to do is sell the team to someone who cares.
Yeah, that's been the sentiment from a lot of people. He's not going to sell. I mean, you're kind of barking up the wrong tree because he's not going to sell. But Josh Harris is a businessman. That's what he is. He's a businessman. He owns the Sixers. He owns the Commanders. He owns the Devils. He's doing this as a business.
Looking to make money.
Yeah,
right.
That's what it is. And, I mean, I don't think he necessarily hides that fact, but it is frustrating in the city of Philadelphia, especially you look over across the street and Jeffrey Lurie, all he really cares about is that Eagles team. And they are a very well-run organization because, in large part, who your owner is. Jeffrey Lurie has been a phenomenal owner. And you go to the Phillies. Look, John Middleton right now has been a good owner. I know we're frustrated with some of the decisions the Phillies have made, but I don't think anyone is necessarily frustrated with ownership. We were a little bit with the Harry Callis thing, but we won't mention that right now. But as far as like personnel and spending money, but yeah, Josh Harris, he might have to go into the luxury tax this year because if you don't get out from under these big contracts, and we're going to talk to Noah Levick coming up from NBC Sports Philadelphia, what can you do? Because like Ricky keeps pointing out, you don't even have a starting five right now, and you're close to going over the luxury tax.
You're at 180, over 180 million right now. And to put into perspective, the Sixers spent 193 million last year, and that included Oubre, Drummond, and who is the third?
Quentin Grimes.
Yep. And now you take those three off, and you're still over 180 million.
All right, so a lot of questions for Noah Levick coming up, but now it's your first What Movie Wednesday of the day. If you've never played before, we're going to play a clip of a movie. If you know it, all you got to do is text the Davis Honda text line, 610-632-0975. Don't call. Just text the name of the movie if you know it. We're giving away 4 $50 gift cards to Nifty 50s today, all right? And the themes of the movie are movies based in London since the Eagles are playing the Jags in London. I usually pull the clips. I did not pull them today. This was all Dylan McKinnon. I have no idea what these movies are. So yell at him if these movies are crazy. All right? That's my disclaimer on
Way
these.
to get rid of that one.
All right, so here we go. Your first What Movie Wednesday of the day.
Where's safe? Where's familiar? Where can I smoke? Take car, go to Mum's, kill Phil, sorry, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over. How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Yeah, boy!
it is vital that you stay in your homes, make no attempt to reach loved ones, and avoid all physical contact with the assailants.
You believe everything you hear on TV?
All right, there it is. Text the name of the movie, 610-632-0975. I actually know this one. Coming up, we'll give you the answer, and we'll talk to Noah Levick, who covers the Sixers for NBC Sports Philadelphia, about what can the Sixers do in terms of personnel with Joel, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, etc. Don't go anywhere. Unfiltered continues. 97.5 The Fanatic, NBC Sports Philadelphia.